right. So, welcome to Grow Buffalo Business. My name is Jennifer Culver. And this morning, I'm very excited to introduce Fela Davis, who is going to be speaking to us about how to use podcasts to build your business. So, Fela is a graduate of Full Sail University with over 20 years of experience in audio engineering and was inducted into the university's Hall of Fame in 2019. She co-owns One of One Production Studio, 5 minutes from New York City in Fort Lee, New Jersey. One of One Production Studio also specializes in podcast recording and production for top 200 Apple podcasts like Holding Court with Ebony K. Williams and the Art of Music Tech podcast that she hosts with her 23DB business partner, Dennis. Her clients also include doctors, lawyers, and real estate business owners that need quality videos of their establishments. So I'm going to turn it over to Fela. Welcome and thank you for being here with us today.
Hello, Buffalo. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to talk about the world of podcasting. Let me pull up my keynote right quick. Uh, Actually, I'll start. Okay. Um,
And friends, we have had some issues with some graying on the screen, so we are aware of
yeah,
it and we're working through it.
which I'm adjusting. Hold on. Okay. That should be a little better too. Okay, so yeah, how to use podcast to build your business. Uh, as you kind of went over my bio a little bit earlier, I'll even give you a little story on why content creation and like podcasting, it changed my life as far as um being an audio engineer. When I first moved, as you may can tell from my voice, I'm a southerner. I'm from South Carolina, not from Jersey so much. But when I first moved here 14 years ago, I didn't know anybody, and I wanted to go out on tour, and I wanted to be a live sound engineer. I didn't have any connections, and it was like, well, how do I do this? And this thing called LinkedIn and YouTube, were going, and this was 10 years ago. So when LinkedIn started letting you put videos up, I was mixing gigs for like $50 a night in New York City and Brooklyn. I started posting them to my YouTube. And then 8 months later, well, and I posted it to my YouTube and then put it to my LinkedIn. 8 months later, I get a DM in my LinkedIn from an 8-time Grammy Award winner saying, hey, I have a front of house position mixing for my bands. Would you be interested? And I was like, well, of course. So for me, that changed my life. I got to see the world after that. Africa, Asia, New Zealand, Australia, everywhere I ever wanted to go, Nice. Um, so from that, I ended up, touring around the world, and I started a podcast, just talking about audio engineering, called The Art of Music Tech. And then other businesses and people started asking me, could you help me out with that? And now we've, in the 3-4 years that we've been doing it, we've gotten to work with these major brands and, like I said, plastic surgeons, banks, all sorts of things are using podcast and video to show off their businesses. So we during the pandemic, which actually kind of worked out for us, New York City, uh their studios was shut down. So we ended up getting a New York City housewife from Bravo, Ebony K. Williams, and that ended up getting us a Webby nomination for like best politics. And that was great because we were going against huge businesses like ABC and Vox and Amazon. So for us as an independent creators and production house, to be a part of that was fantastic. Right next to that, you see pictures of our studio. And we're also retailers for audio equipment. So the stuff that you hear me hear and see me through right now, we also sell as well. So let's get into it. For businesses, people act, I'm giving my frequently asked questions from businesses. What do I talk about in a podcast? And I always say, highlight the niche in your business. Um, bring in experts for interviews that are also in your business. Highlight the trends that are happening in the business, have that fresh take early on and getting your thoughts out there as well. It makes you an authority in what you're doing. And it helps you out with your SEO power, which is how everybody finds you. Everybody Googles, everybody uses key searches, your name. You want it to be easy to find great information about you and your business very quickly with SEO search power. What structures to use. A lot of people use the interview structure, which I love personally as well. Talking with other experts, you're kind of working off of each other because you're an expert in your field, and you're gonna get to talk to them about their expertise. And then there's also another popular one, which is the solo podcast. Now, these are like 10 to 20 minutes because this is just one person talking about, a certain topic. They keep it nice and tight, concise, and the things that you're working on. And actually, we're doing a solo podcast right now for Ice-T that's going to come out for iHeartRadio. So that's our first kind of like major solo podcast because he has no guest. He just takes a topic and he talks about it for 15, 20 minutes. Pretty cool. Looking forward to that coming out soon. And then we also have the narrative podcast, which is a mix of both the interview and solo podcasts. These can tend to be a little bit more expensive because you have to put it together almost like a 60 minutes piece or a 2020. It's like a in-depth podcast. So you can interview, you first do like a solo like monologue thing that you're talking about, and then bring in a guest and making it a full show. So the narrative podcasts are a little bit more expensive, but very interesting to check out. And then you want to think about the structure that you want to have for your podcast, for your business. I tell people not to just say, hey, I'm just going to do a podcast and just keep on going forever and ever. Think about doing it in episodes and in like series, like the seasons rather. 8 to 12 podcasts on a certain topic. Keep it to that, get the feedback, take a break for a month, and then get back to it and, get another niche that you want to talk about that deals with your business. This is the easier way to do it without getting burned out, because when you just keep on going forever and ever, you tend to run out of steam after a minute. So you want to get your feedback, take a break, but to keep it consistent, do 8 to 12 episodes in a season, take a break, come back, see what you want to do next, and then continue. These are the audio kits we have for sale as well. We have people that use it, like Emily K. Williams used it for her podcast as well when she couldn't make it to our studio here in New Jersey. She used that thing all over in Mexico, all over the place. This comes with a nice waterproof case. And we can design it to your budget. And you can also see our Shopify account. I'm going to have that at the end of our of the presentation. this is a video. I don't think I have time to show, so I'm just gonna scoot past that. Checklist. Checklist for doing podcasts. It's just too many things to think about when you're doing a podcast. So you want to just have checklists to just know every time that you have everything, whether it's you forget things like the microphone stand and stuff like that. So I like to put in this checklist for every time we do a remote podcast and have to do it outside of the studio. This is a great way for us to keep everything on point and know that we have everything that we need every time for production's sake. Here's my information. If you would like to get in touch with me, please email me at info. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And we're always putting out great information for you to know about, whether it's, for getting your podcast going or the production side. We talk a lot about what mics and, what things to use for certain situations. So please reach out to us, One of One Productions. And also we'll give you 10% off of anything if you want to buy a kit that's also on our oneofoneproductions.com website. So yeah, I'm going to open it up to questions.
So once again, I'm going to ask that you raise your hand if you have a question or a comment for Fela. All right,
Yes.
Linda, go ahead.
Hi, Fela. So
Hi.
I'm Linda Bucher, and I actually started a podcast. Well, it started just on YouTube last year. I did maybe 37 episodes.
Nice.
And then just about 3 weeks ago, I used Buzzsprout and I threw it up on, Apple and Spotify and Amazon Music. I call it Conversations Worth Your While. And it's a show where I talk with like heart-centered, authentic experts to help spark and inspire and motivate personal and professional change. And it's a different format. So I'm not sure it's quite what you were saying, your formats, because this is conversational and my podcast is in service of the audience. We're trying to solve a problem for the audience in the time we're talking in our 20 or so minutes. And so I don't know if, I'm not even sure what my question is, but, I guess, how do I, let's see. I think it may be unique in that way. It's in service because we're servant leaders. All my guests are servant leaders in some way. And so we're here to be in service. And then we're using that person's expertise and having a conversation around it, but it's certainly not an interview at all. It's really just talking through an issue, what's going on? Why is it so big? How does it manifest? And what can someone do right now? And then I, being a master life coach, I attack the mindset side, and my guest might be, selling solar panels. Like, like it doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter who my guest is. So I guess, like the list, how to list it, like, what is it considered? How can, what just comes to mind when I say something like this for you to tell a brand new podcaster?
It sounds educational. It's still kind of an interview to me because you're learning about that particular person's like niche as well. The great thing about that is that they're going to reshare to they should. That's the other thing you need to get,
I do
getting all of your guests to reshare on their platforms. It also gives, more light to your particular show as well for people to tune in more. So, you never know. That's my other thing about my first story is like, I had no idea that I was going to get contacted through LinkedIn, that was going to happen, but it's really like scratcher lottery tickets in a way.
Okay.
It's like, hey, nothing for a minute. Then all of a sudden, bang, this whole thing that, could take your show to another, to a network or something like that. You just never know. And that's why it's really about following your passion and doing the stuff that you like to talk about. So you don't get stuck with something you don't like doing. So, I mean, I like, what you're talking about, but but if you're like, what niche do I put it in? It sounds like education to me, and like life education, and is your life coach. So yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you,
niche.
Linda.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, you had your hand raised. I just want to see if you were, I know you're off camera now too. If
Yeah.
you had a question?
Well, no, I'm here. Just was trying to do the I'm good.
Okay.
So,
All right. Just
thank
wanted to
you.
make sure we didn't lose you.
I appreciate it. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
David, go ahead with your question. You'll have to unmute. There you go.
My question is kind of a bizarre one, but I educate people about autism. I have a website, but I'm kind of scared to use social media. So when I do a podcast, I just link stuff through my website through like Google Drive because there are a lot of controversial topics with autism that I feel are important in today's day and age without going into certain names because we all know what they are. Social media likes to censor you and ban you. So, how would you recommend you get around that?
Mm, good question.
Yeah, yeah. Because in the end, with social, you kind of got to find your tribe, that do want to be in contact with that, and there always is that tribe of people. I say still put it on social, unless it's, that it's a certain topics that they're gonna ban. There are certain people and topics that you just can't say on any social media platform,
My mine's not mine's not violent in any way.
yeah.
I can give you I can give you a topic, but for for example, which whether you believe it or not, I've done a lot of research with autism, and
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm not I'm not anti-vax or anything, but I do think we need to change our uh, vaccine schedule when we're talking about autism. But like Google doesn't even, YouTube, for example, doesn't even allow you to talk about vaccines or anything. If you mention that, hey, there's a possible chance that vaccines could cause autism, even though us in the autism community know there have been um, settlements giving out and stuff, YouTube will automatically ban you from
Yeah.
doing that. So I don't really post on social media because of that. If people
Mm-hmm.
want to see my stuff, I tell them go to my website. Now, I talk about more than just controversial topics. I'm a web show where I talk about autism from a 360-degree view, which means I talk about everything. So when you hear my podcast, which I haven't done much on it, there might be a sliver where we talk about vaccines. There might be a sliver where we talk about applied behavior analysis.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a sliver where we talk about how cannabis helps people with autism. And I'm just wondering, like, what do you do for Facebook and social
Yeah.
media that doesn't like some of your topics?
Well, you kind of, you put it right there. Just take those things out. And then, hey, just getting people to your website, because really that's what you want to do in the end. That's where a lot of the value is, getting people off of social and into your personal and business websites. And then you're getting their information, and you really want to, build on your email list as well. So then you can get into those controversial topics, but it's on a one-to-one thing. And hey, if the person wants to, unsubscribe or whatever, but you can get it so that you get their information, that's why, email lists are very, very crucial to any business right now. You want to get these people off of social and into your email list so that you can get more personal and talk about the stuff that you're really into.
That's an
And
excellent
again,
point.
and,
David,
and,
can
and
we?
again, thank you, Jennifer, for not kicking me off because I asked that question. I know it's extremely controversial, but it's a question that's out there that people have every day. So thank you for not throwing me off this platform.
You're welcome. And you know what?
Uh-huh.
You raise a good point. What
Mhm.
are we trying to accomplish with podcasts and social media? It's all about driving it to your website, making those connections, and essentially growing your business. And
Mhm.
so I appreciate that. I'm going to jump in for a question, if I may, Fela.
Yeah.
Um, how do you recommend somebody get started? Like, I'm interested in it. I'm nervous about it. Do you take a class? How do you recommend somebody get introduced to it and start?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we help clients launch their podcast as well, but there are a lot of different sources out there, if you're just looking it up in Google and just like how to start a podcast. There are a million different ways to do it. There's a great publishers. The first thing you want to think about, what do you want to do it on? How do you want to schedule it? As far as how you're going to get it out there and stuff, that's pretty easy. You're going to need a publisher, which there's stuff like Buzzsprout and Dystopia, and there's a bunch of different places that you could pitch your podcast on. Once you get it on a publisher, the publisher sends it out to all those different iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, all that sort of thing. So really, I would say concentrate on what you want to talk about first. Where, how, if you can get interviews, all of that sort of thing, kind of have it planned out. Because, I mean, if you're just going to, do it for a season, you can have all of that already planned out. Who you're going to have, when you can kind of do a mass recording of just like recording 5 episodes in one weekend or a one day, in a weekend, do 10 and just knock it out and go from there. Just don't let it overwhelm you though. That's my number one thing is this. It is a step-by-step process, but get a professional like myself or someone else, near in Buffalo. And just, take it one step at a time.
Can I
Also,
ask one more question?
Also, for everybody that wants a free podcast where you don't have to pay for it, if you go on Substack, they also have a podcast feature where it's totally free. It's in beta right now, and you don't have to pay for it, and they will put it all on your different platforms, like our guest was saying, and you don't have to pay for it. So it's a good feature to use.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Okay,
Fela,
Linda, real quick.
Can I ask one more question?
Real quick, please.
So I didn't make seasons or episode numbers. I just throw out titles. What's the benefits of having seasons? Like what are the pros and cons? Why have seasons? Why not?
Yeah. The pros is that you don't get burned out. Some people just get all in their head about it and then just quit doing it, period. So when you don't see a finish line, that's why I tell people to do seasons instead of just like, oh, I'm just going to keep it going forever. Cause you see a finish line. That's why.
What about from the listener's perspective? Why seasons and episode numbers, or why not?
Oh, because I mean, people are still, they're either going to mass listen. They'll probably listen to 5 or 6 episodes at one time. And then that gives them something to want to go back to, like, oh, okay, this was going, when it does. And once they do like subscribe, when you do start back up, it'll ping, it'll ping their phone anyway. So, it'll always bring them back.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question, Linda. Thank you. Well, thank you, Fela, for joining us today. This was very educational. I know some of us, myself included, have been thinking about the podcast realm and have been kind
Do
of
it.
intimidated. So I appreciate the tips and tricks. And Fela, you're welcome to stay with us for our breakout sessions if you want to chat with the group. But otherwise, I encourage you, all of you, to get in contact with Fela with your individual questions and get the support that you're looking for.